I said it in my last video, we have to watch if this thing intensifies, and it did. Alert level raised again. 3 out of 4. Guys, we're not talking about a normal volcano. We're talking about a monster that scares everyone when you hear the name. I am talking about a volcano. In 2018, it killed 437 people. Anak Krakatau, Krakatoa. There was no earthquake, there was no warning, there was no siren in 2018. The sea just rose in the dark. And yesterday, that same volcano just woke up again. I mean, it was waking up already, but to another level right now. But here's the part that almost nobody's telling you, so please listen carefully. It wasn't the eruption in 2018 that ended these people. It was something that the eruption actually hit. By the end of this, you'll know the signal, not the ash, not the alert level, that decides whether this stays an eruption or whether it becomes 2018 all over again, because that's the important part. That's why I'm telling you about this. A few days ago, I told you to keep your eyes open on Anak Krakatau. Not every ash plume that comes out of this is a crisis. But this one already had a number attached to it. Level 2 out of 4. Above normal. Rising seismic activity. Visible change at the crater. That's why it had to be watched. But then the signals started stacking up. So, telling you about the unrest, June 1st. Satellites catch it first. Sulfur dioxide and heat. Basically bleeding off that crater. And then June 10th. Fire spots appear inside the crater. Never a good sign with a volcano. Then the ground beneath the volcano starts to shake. Earthquakes. Over and over. That's a sign that something's rising up. Between June 16th and July 2nd, the instruments logged it all. 740 exhalation earthquakes, that's what they're called. 520 hybrid earthquakes, 16 stretches of continuous tremor. That's not one event, that's a volcano breathing faster and faster, meaning acceleration. So then, June 26th, the smoke has changed color. That is an indication. If white smoke appears, which it did until then, it's mostly steam. But then the smoke turned gray. Gray means ash. And that has to come from something. Ash means the volcano is no longer just breathing gas. It is tearing rock apart on the way up. That's why we see black ash coming out. And underneath all of it, the tilt meters, they caught the worst tell of all. The volcano was inflating. Inflating. That means something like a balloon is blowing up the land underneath the volcano, and we know what that is. If the entire body there, it started swelling millimeter by millimeter, inch by inch, a pressure built with nowhere to go. This can be gas, heat. Then we saw the fire in the crater. We saw the gray ash, hundreds of earthquakes, a mountain physically swelling. All of that together, still only level 2. Imagine that. And then it let go. July 2nd, 2:05 p.m. in the afternoon local time, column of gray to black ash punches about 200 meters, that's roughly 660 feet above the summit. So roughly 357 meters, that's about 1,170 feet into the sky. It leans northwest and then it drifts over the strait. On the seismogram, the whole event is a single volcanic spike, 23 millimeters, about 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Less than 3 hours later, Indonesia makes the call. Level 2 becomes level 3. That is the second highest alert that the whole country has for a volcano. So the crater zone is sealed off. No visitors, no climbers, nobody within 3 kilometers. That's roughly 1.9 miles. So the official hazards right now, of course, pyroclastic flows, lava, glowing ejecta, and heavy ashfall. Hot clouds of gas and rocks racing down the slope. Molten rock, lava is thrown from the vent. Ash that is heavy enough to choke engines, water, and lungs. That sounds like the whole story, but guys, it isn't. I want to make a video about this if that was the whole story. The real worry here is because Anak Krakatau, ash is not the thing that ends people's lives. Water is. Look at where this volcano sits. Dead center in the Sunda Strait, Java on one side, Sumatra on the other. The closest coastlines, Banten and Lampung, aren't miles of safety away. They're just not. So they're within reach of the sea where exactly this volcano is in. And this strait has already shown us twice what it does when a volcano falls into it, so to speak. And this volcano is very different. I want to talk about 1883 just quickly because the original Krakatau doesn't just erupt, it destroys itself. Like 2/3 of the island collapses beneath the sea in 1883. That collapse throws the ocean outwards in every direction. More than 36,000 people lost, most of them not from fire or volcanic eruption, but from water. In Banten, the wave is estimated at 41 meters, 135 feet, the height of a 13-story building. This is what you have to imagine. And 165 coastal towns and villages gone. So that eruption was so violent that it sent superheated clouds of ash that raced 40 kilometers, about 25 miles across open sea and reached the coast of Sumatra. And that was, so to speak, the parent of Anak Krakatau, because then inside, after that event happened, inside the empty caldera, a new cone clawed its way back out of the water, basically the child. They named it Anak Krakatau, the child of Krakatau. And then in 2018, that same child proved it had inherited, we have to say, 2018, we have to call that night the warning system failed. December 22nd, 2018, Anak Krakatau is erupting. Nothing unusual for it. There's no giant offshore earthquake, no megathrust, no tsunami trigger, nothing the warning system is built to catch. Nothing unusual was showing up anywhere. Then the southwest flank simply fails. Flank collapse. That's why I was talking about Etna recently. Roughly 0.2 cubic kilometers, that's about 0.05 cubic miles, of that volcano slides into the sea, above 2/3 of everything that it had ever built above water. This is what you have to imagine how massive that was. So in a single night, the mountain drops from 338 meters, that's roughly 1,110 feet, to barely 110 meters, roughly 360 feet. This is how massive this collapse was. And the water that it shoved aside by falling into the water became a wave. It hits in the dark, unfortunately. People have almost no warning. Banten, Lampung, Anyer, Karita, Tanjung Lesung, Sumur. Beaches, resorts, fishing villages, homes, roads hit hard. At least 437 people lost, more than 14,000 people injured, tens of thousands with nowhere to go. On the small islands also that are right beside the volcano, survey teams measured tsunami run-up in the tens of meters. Along the populated coast, the waves were smaller, but still very catastrophic. At Karita, the water reached about 6.6 meters, roughly 22 feet. Only like 3 feet is over and out if it reaches you. And it pushed nearly, and that's also interesting, nearly 250 meters, that's over 800 feet inland. So you have to run quite far away, depending on the geology, if the wave comes. At Tanjung Lesung, the first wave arrived at 9:30 p.m. Mid-event, a seaside stage was basically swallowed whole. Sumur, run-up hit nearly 15 meters, close to 50 feet, and the area was cut off from the world for about 3 days. No earthquake, no siren, just the shape of the volcano, and then the sea it fell into was racing towards the population. I want to make this clear. An eruption of Anak Krakatau does not automatically mean that it will create a tsunami. Ash does not mean a tsunami. Level 3 does not mean a tsunami. Officials are telling people in Banten and Lampung directly, stay calm and do not believe tsunami rumors. That is the responsible truth of things, absolutely. But here's why volcanologists still watch this one differently from almost any volcano on Earth. The 2018 disaster didn't need an earthquake. It needed a flank losing its grip. And that is something that can happen basically at any time, right? This is the one thing that a standard warning system still can't reliably see coming. So what do we have to watch out next? We need to look at the scoreboard, the signals that tell you which way this goes. Repeated eruptions closer together. Is the ash getting even darker? Is the tremor getting stronger? Are thermal hotspots spreading further across the crater? Is the exclusion zone getting bigger? And the one that matters most, any sign of instability, deformation, or new activity on that southwest flank, because that flank is, I have to say, it's the difference between a hazard you can stand back from and 2018. So here's where it stands tonight. After that July 2nd eruption, the volcano so far doesn't roar louder. The latest readings show it's easing back a little bit. The plume is dropping to a low haze. The tremors going quiet, which sounds like relief, but at a volcano that is swelling, that has the land rising and erupted, then went still, quiet is not an answer, it's a question. Is Anak Krakatau winding down or is it catching its breath? Because both scenarios are possible. Because if this stays in the crater, it's an eruption you can watch from the distance. If that flank ever moves, the Sunda Strait has a very, very different problem. And we'll be watching the exact signals that I'm just mentioning. Or I will be watching it for you, but you will watch too, and then we'll talk about this. So I hope you like this. If you want to see a magnitude 7.5 earthquake that shows an unusual movement of the ground and it was caught on CCTV camera, guys, you have to see this because this is not often that we see it, and we see what it does to people, but we also see what it does to buildings in the background. Catastrophic earthquake in Venezuela. You have to watch this video because I compare it with other very strange videos that we've seen recently that will blow your mind. So it's a very interesting, very, very interesting video. Watch it here. I'll see you in a second. Stay safe. Bye-bye.